Well, on this Veterans Day, it's appropriate we pause to remember those who have served and thank them. And given the chaos in the world and the adversaries we face, we know that a strong military is critical to the health of our nation. I think we need to ask the question, is America's military up to the challenges that we see, not only in Eastern Europe with what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, but Asia and elsewhere? As I mentioned, the White House has said that President Biden will meet with Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping on Monday in Indonesia as the G20 gathers. As China grows more aggressive toward Taiwan and establishing global dominance, is the U.S. military able to back up U.S. diplomacy? Joining me now to talk about this and more on this special Veterans Day edition of Washington Watch is Congressman Brad Wenstrup. He serves on the House Committee on Ways and Means and on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. He is an Iraq War veteran and represents the 2nd District of the state of Ohio. Congressman Wenstrup, welcome back to Washington Watch. Good to have you.
Good to be with you, Tony, as always. I appreciate it.
And thank you for your service to our country. Let me say that, there's a lot to discuss, but let's get your thoughts first on President's upcoming meeting with Xi Jinping on Monday.
Well, it'll be interesting. From what I understand, Tony, it's going to be sort of a sideline meeting at the G20 between them, not a high-profile meeting, if you will. And we've heard President Biden say that he's going to discuss what China's red lines are and what our red lines are. Well, I think we've seen over recent years with some leaders that a red line doesn't really mean anything. They throw it out there and say it, but what does it really mean? We now see President Xi has solidified himself as third-term president and leader of the party, the Communist Party in China. And so he's very well entrenched. And it seems like people that are in his cabinet, if you will, don't question him because there's a fear. Look, the President of the United States has been vocal about some things with President Xi, about the treatment of Uyghurs, what's happened in Hong Kong, about trade, about military actions that have taken place in Taiwan, where the president said that we will defend Taiwan, and then the administration backed off from that. President Xi is also looking at Russia as he has his eyes on Taiwan, which is a key issue. I hope that he addresses China and asks them to put some pressure on North Korea to calm down their rhetoric and their firing off of missiles. Look, we know what the Chinese ambition is. They want to be the world's dominant economic and military power and be the only superpower in this world. We have got to come back to that for the sake of freedom and for everything that we value in the United States. We've come out and said we're going with strategic ambiguity. Well, I guess if you're trying to leave them guessing a little bit, maybe that may be one effective tool. But you touched on some other things that have me concerned about the weakness on our side, some of the breakdown within the military, some of the changes that we're seeing take place that don't encourage us. And look, we got a lot of veterans running for office this time, and we got a lot of people speaking out because we want our country to be strong. We want our military to be strong. And so I hope that the president will go into this from a good tone of strength from the United States. But I haven't seen that very often. So we'll see what comes out of it, Tony.
Well, Congressman, earlier this week, the president said, his message would be, look, we want competition, not conflict. And that's good. I think we should pursue diplomacy at every turn, but we have to go in with our eyes wide open. That, as you just pointed out, that's not necessarily China's take on this. And the question is our military up to a point under this administration of being able to back up any diplomatic effort?
Well, we've seen some breakdown. We've canceled some of the programs that we have for some of our military assets, and that's a shame. I think that there's a great division that's taking place within our military right now because it seems that from the administration, we are advocating for this wokeness within the military. It is not popular, and it affects morale. And also what has affected morale is what has taken place with the mandates for vaccine. Look, I'm pro-vaccine, but with any medicine, any type of treatment. There's pluses and minuses, and we took doctors out of the equation. You have the Secretary of Defense, or you have the President of the United States, or politicians saying, you must take this or you lose your job. And unfortunately, we may have people within our military that have more immunity than those that got vaccinated because they may have gotten, and we know that that can build up tremendous immunity. So all these things are just breaking down the morale. And we've got many, many concerns to be worried about. COVID showed us something as well. That one, we know that we can create viruses from two viruses and chain parts on them to make them more infectious. That's a capability that the world seems to have. And COVID really has shown, are we really prepared for another pandemic if something comes along? And we also have concerns with biowarfare, for example. I did a roundtable with RAND Corporation, and that was one of the main concerns they have, is creating something that can be used against us. So what are our biodefenses? So many things to be concerned about. You know, if our supply chain, for example, is dependent on China, even for our military, that's a problem. It never should have gotten that way. If you'd have told me as a surgeon in Iraq that my protective equipment and pharmaceuticals relied on China, I would have said, how did we get here? How do we start to rely on adversaries for our military? So we have a lot of things to turn around. And I hope that we start doing that, but I haven't seen that ambition coming from the administration, unfortunately.
Well, Congressman, you've laid out a lot right there in that statement. Let's talk about right now, it looks like the Republicans are about 7 seats away from having the majority. You look at the races that are still out, it's pretty certain that the Republicans will have the majority, but it'll be a very slim margin. Uncertain about what's going to happen in the Senate. What can a Republican House do, and how committed will they be to it to strengthen our military, only having one chamber possibly?
Well, I would say when it comes to the military, I think we have a lot of bipartisan support. There's a component of the Democrat Party that is anti-military, they want to open borders. They want a whole different environment than what our founders put in place and what America has been used to. But at the same time, I think we can get some broad bipartisan support for enhancing our military. There are Democrat veterans that are on armed services and on intelligence committee that I work with very well, that fully understand the threats to the United States of America and want to work on that. So I think that we can get some things done there, and a lot across other lines too. You know, I've never seen a party like the Democrats right now celebrating their losses, because that's really what's happened if you look at the last 2 elections. 2 years ago, we were supposed to lose 15 seats. We gained 15 seats. I think we're going to gain maybe about that many this time. So we'll see how the numbers play out, but we're going to lead by example, Tony. We're going to come forward with policies that hopefully will be pretty inarguable on behalf of the American people and in this case, the defense of our great nation.
Well, it's an extremely important issue. And again, Congressman Brad Wenstrup, I want to thank you for your service, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for all you do, Tony. Appreciate it.